How many here have, in this lifetime, have been to Vrindavan? I don't need to ask the next, but how many would like to go to Vrindavan? Well, the idea is through sound to go to Vrindavan. As you know, Prabhupada said you can't buy a ticket to go to Vrindavan. You can buy a ticket to go to Vrindavan. You can't buy a ticket to enter Vrindavan, but by sound one can enter Vrindavan. And there'll be an attempt this whole weekend to vibrate that same sound vibration that Srimad Bhagavatam provides us with, that carries us through sound to Vrindavan. Krishna made his appearance 5,000 years ago and performed his pastimes in 3 primary places. The foremost being Vrindavan, and then he left. But we know from Srimad Bhagavatam, his presence was made available through the Srimad Bhagavatam, the light of the Bhagavat. And very mercifully, our founder Acharya has made once again, the consciousness of Krishna present in the world, all over the world. Our older generation people, there's a few in the back there, they'll probably be able to verify something that before coming here, I was in ISKCON Silicon Valley, ISV, and spent some time both with Shyamasundar and Garuda Prabhu's, Guru Das, Shyamasundar and Guru Das. And both of them were, they like, more than like, they love glorifying Srila Prabhupada, and one of the things that they both say regularly, when Srila Prabhupada established ISKCON, just like he had tried to establish ISKCON before he came to America, League of Devotees in India. In short, the consciousness of Krishna had gone way down. And now it's way up and rising and rising and rising, and without going into it, our founder Acharya made the consciousness of Krishna prevalent, even in India, what to speak of the rest of the world, where it was not gone, but not so prominent. In the broad picture of things, not so prominent. But it's become prominent, and we can become. We're living in the West, and it's Kali Yuga, and there's distractions, a few here and there, and keeps our mind really busy and non-Krishna stuff. But the idea is to spend this time together through sound, to be with Krishna. That's the intention. The topic was selected because of the co-speaker. We'll introduce a little bit the co-speaker tomorrow. Garuda Prabhu. And so this is the Krishna in Braj. So I'm going to speak on certain pastimes of Krishna in Braj, and this is from a later section of 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. He's still in Vrindavan, There's a little echo. Can you do something with the sound? Can you fix the echo? So Śaṅkhacūḍa, the conch shell demon, the painting you see on the screen, that's Śaṅkhacūḍa, and Krishna's chasing him and he's bonking him in the head, and you see that effulgent something on his forehead is a conch shell-shaped jewel. It's a jewel shaped like a conch, thus Shankha, or conch shaped jewel. And Krishna wanted the jewel. Krishna wanted the jewel. Krishna wanted the jewel. He gave the jewel to, and eventually Radharani got the jewel. Guess what? We'll hear the nice story at the very end. So the scene, here's a very old painting. Down at the bottom of the painting, there's Krishna Balaram by the side of the river Jamuna. There's some cows, and there's some cowherd boys in the lower parts of the painting. In the middle part of the painting, there's Balaram with looks like a branch in his hand, according to the Bhagavatam. It's a sal tree. Sal tree is a hardwood tree. And there's Śaṅkhacūḍa scurrying the gopis away from being with Krishna and Balaram. And then in the upper right, there's Krishna smacking Śaṅkhacūḍa with the sal tree, but he didn't hit him with the sal tree, but that's what the painting shows. And then the upper right, he separated his head from the rest of his body, and he did that with his fist. And it's a detail. We'll hear the detail as we go forward. But it's a nice pastime. We'll be hearing many nice pastimes of Krishna. Here's a little introduction to the pastime. And a good part of this is going to be just reading from commentary, some verses and commentary of our acharyas, because it's hard to replicate the mood. I know the story, but their language is very delightful. This pastime occurred on the full moon night of Phalgun, after Shivaratri, when Krishna and the gopis were celebrating Holi, or Horika, in a customary manner. Notice that little asterisk by the word Horika. We'll hear how that name Horika came. She was not a nice lady. Horika was the sister of Hiranyakashipu. And the sister of Hiranyakashipu, Horika, had the job of trying to burn Prahlad in fire. Oh, backfired. She got burned in the fire. And as she was burned in the fire, there's a festival, the Horika festival, celebrating. She got burned. So they light lamps and have fires and celebrating the wicked witch is dead. It continued till the time of Krishna, and it continues till present time. A holy festival, festival of lights. That's where the lights come from. Horika got burned in the fire she tried to burn Krishna in. So there was a big festival, and in celebrating the Horika festival, the holy festival, lighting fires on the eve of Holi, or Dola Purnim. So that's the scene, and you see the painting on the left, Krishna's in a nice dancing pose, and many gopis he's dancing with. And according to this biography, Mathura Mandala Parikrama, there's a particular place where he was killed. We'll see photographs of the place also. In this book by Narahari Chakravarti, it's a place called Shankha Gram, Shankhi Gram, the village of where Śaṅkhacūḍa was killed. And here's how the scene opens. This is chapter 34 of Canto 10. Once, Lord Govinda and Lord Ram, the performers of wonderful feats, were playing in the forest at night with the young girls of Braja. So there's Balaram with his young gopis, and there's Krishna with his young gopis. Whoop. Krishna and Balaram wore flower garlands and spotless garments, and their limbs were beautifully decorated and anointed. The women sang their glories in a charming way, bound to them by affection. The two lords praised the nightfall, signaled by the rising of the moon and the appearance of stars, lotus-scented breezes, and bees intoxicated by the fragrance of jasmine flowers. No, this shows both. There's a bee, see that bee above the lotus? We inserted him. He wasn't there before, but we invited him to come, and he came. And then over the right are some jasmines. So the breeze was carrying the fragrance of these flowers. The bees were intoxicated by that fragrance. Krishna and Balaram sang, producing the entire range of musical sounds simultaneously. What? What's that sound like? You go to Vrindavan, you'll find out. Their singing brought happiness to the ears and minds of all living beings. And of course, the gopis went mad when they heard all this. The gopis became stunned when they heard that song. Forgetting themselves, they did not notice that their fine garments were becoming loose and their hair and garlands disheveled. So, commentary. Something about children and distraction and something about it, invariably. Okay. Jiva Goswami, because we already asked if there's any newer people, you already know who Jiva Goswami is. He's such a wonderful, who can say how many times wonderful Acharya. One of the wonderfulnesses of his Acharyaness was he was requested by Sanatana Goswami, Rupa's elder brother, to read over and critique, edit if needed, his commentary on the 10th canto as a service. There's nothing going to be wrong with Sanatana Goswami's writings, but he wanted him to edit it, so he accepted the service, and he edited it. We don't know how much he edited, but he then made a commentary on the commentary. And the commentary is Sri Vaishnava Toshani, his commentary. So his commentary on that commentary explains that Balaram had separate gopis during this pastime, and the two lords, as they sang, there were two groups of gopis. And as they sang, the gopis fainted. It was pretty good singing, right? The mixing together of all the gopis, however, occurred during the Horika festival. He's confirming this was the particular occasion. Back to the Bhagavatam. While Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram thus played according to their own sweet will and sang to the point of apparent intoxication, a servant of Kuvera named Śaṅkhacūḍa came upon the scene. Now, how did Śaṅkhacūḍa just happen to come upon the scene? Well, the explanation is Śaṅkhacūḍa had a close friendship with Kamsa. And Kamsa had heard from the fellow on the left, who was that one? Aristasura. And the fellow on the right, Keshi. These two, Aristasura and Keshi, informed Kamsa, oh, in Vrindavan, there's this beautiful, most beautiful, exquisitely beautiful female. Her name is Radharani. She should become your wife. He liked that idea. So he sent Śaṅkhacūḍa to bring her to Vrindavan, to bring her from Vrindavan to Mathura, so he could marry her. That was the plot. Didn't work out so well. O king, even as the two lords looked on, Śaṅkhacūḍa brazenly began driving the women off towards the north, which tells you a little bit about the geography. Mathura is in a northerly direction from Vrindavan, or Vrindavan is the southerly direction from Mathura. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this is Prabhupada's purport, the demon Śaṅkhacūḍa shook a large stick at the beautiful young girls, thus frightening them and driving them toward the north. He did not actually touch them, as is corroborated in the following verse. So here's the following verse. This is not yet, this is Sridhar Swami comments. He drove them away by force. In Gopal Champu, again, a commentary by Jiva Goswami on the Bhagavatam. Overpowered by his evil desires, he took the women away with the speed of a swift river. And according to Rupa Goswami, now Jiva Goswami knew very well what Rupa Goswami had written. And in Rupa Goswami had written in Lalita Madhava, there was only one woman, singular, that was driven by Śaṅkhacūḍa. Jiva Goswami writes plural, women. And the Bhagavatam says women. Jiva Goswami says Jiva Goswami. He has a reason. We'll see as we go along. Lalita Madhava. Another very exquisite commentary on the Bhagavatam. So Gopal Champu continues, Krishna, who is in the company of Balaram, considering the impudent demon to be a buffoon suitable for the festival, restrained himself. It was like comedy in the midst of a festival. It's appropriate. This fool. So they were laughing. They were finding it comical. The women who had accepted Balaram and Krishna as their lords began to cry out to them. And commentary, oh Rama, oh Krishna, please protect us. Gopal Champu. Śaṅkhacūḍa prevented the women from going to Krishna, from seeing or calling out to Krishna and Balaram, since he, Śaṅkhacūḍa, constantly followed the women and made them unconscious by his great speed, ugly form, and frightening sounds. Plus he had a big stick. Missed one slide. Again, Gopal Champu. Krishna speaks. Oh, brother, should we not run and protect the gopis? Though they make all attempts to come to us, the demon prevents them with his great speed and violence. As they gaze at us, the gopis' terrified eyes turn away from him. How unfortunate. Though they cry out for us, the demon silences each cry. Krishna to the rescue. Oops, excuse me. hearing their devotees crying out, Krishna Rama, and seeing that they were just like cows being stolen by a thief, Krishna and Balaram began to run after the demon. Now, many of you know the earliest and formidable commentator of Srimad Bhagavatam was Sridhar Swami, who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted as primary commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. He didn't say others shouldn't write commentary, but he honored him so much. So he comments, Sridhar Swami comments that when he says he was stolen by a thief, means by a tiger. You know, tigers may steal cows. I'm going to share something. It's a little off topic, but it's nice. When I was staying in California, one of the places I stayed was up on a mountaintop. This devotee couple have a farm up on a mountaintop. To get to the mountaintop, it takes like an hour and a half from any village. It's like way up there. And they have cows. They have 2 cows. One is named Malati, and the other cow is named Gayatri. They're very friendly. And they give lots of milk for the Silicon Valley Temple. So I asked, you're up here, way in the mountains. Aren't there predators for cows? That's a good question, isn't it? And the answer was no. They're mountain lions, and every now and then they spot mountain lions. But nature has it that mountain lions don't like cow flesh. They like deer. They like other animals, but there's no predators for cows. I learned a lot of things, very interesting things. Woodpeckers chant Hare Krishna. That's another interesting one. They had to get trained, but they were chanting Hare Krishna. I heard it. So, by a thief means a tiger. So mountain lion isn't the same as, it's similar, but not the same as a tiger. And tigers like that food, like cows. The Lords called out in reply to the gopis, "Do not fear." Then they picked up logs of the sal tree and quickly pursued that lowest of Guyakas, who swiftly ran away. Now this nice painting shows, you see Balaram and Krishna, they're both holding logs. It looks like a big stick, but it says logs in the Bhagavatam. And it shows he's got his arms around 2 gopis. But according to the commentary, he didn't touch them. He shook a stick, and he was intimidating them, but making loud sounds and doing other things, but he didn't touch them. When they, Krishna and Balaram, took the trees in their hands, people wondered whether the trees had become light or their bodies had become heavy. That's Jiva Goswami for you. Back to the Bhagavatam. When Śaṅkhacūḍa saw the 2 of them coming toward him like the personified forces of time and death, he was filled with anxiety. Confused, he abandoned the women and fled for his life. Now there's going to be a little commentary. Take a look again at the 2. One is the forces of time, forces plural. So it's 2 different forces, time and death. The forces of time and death. So here's commentary by Vishwanath. Kala Ritu indicates that time is the sender and Ritu is the agent sent. Just like these 2. Quickly, Rama sent Krishna. Thus, Rama, Balaram, is the sender, and Krishna saying, I will kill him, is the sent. Death. Time and death. One's the sender and the other was sent. That's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And Śaṅkhacūḍa Śaṅkhacūḍa regarded Balaram as Yamaraj and Krishna as death. So Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, sent death. Balaram was the Lord of Death and Krishna was death. That's Gopal Champu. Very similar to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Back to the Bhagavatam. Lord Govinda chased the demon wherever he ran, eager to take his precious jewel. Meanwhile, Lord Balaram stayed with the women to protect them. Teamwork. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Prabhupada's purport, explains that the women were fatigued from being driven away, and thus Lord Balaram protected them and consoled them as they rested. Meanwhile, Krishna went after the demon, and Krishna got him. Gopal Champu. Krishna ran up to him and, having a heart to play, running here and there, made the demon dizzy, surrounding him with his actions. He grabbed him just as Nrsimha caught Hiranyakashipu. Death. Or Śaṅkhacūḍa. In his Vaishnava Toshani, Jiva Goswami asks the question and then answers, why did they, the two lords, not throw the sal trees at him from afar and kill him? And the answer? Krishna wanted to take the jewel, and if he had killed the demon, he could not touch the dead body. He desired to take the jewel while the demon was alive. He wanted to give the jewel to Balaram. That was his intention. Or he wanted to take the jewel because the demon would stay alive as long as the jewel was with him. So there's further commentary that I'll just give sneak preview. When Krishna hit him with his fist and his head fell off, it must have been a hard blow. The jewel fell off first. The blow was so hard, the jewel fell off his head. Not like his turban, his head. The jewel was in his head. And the jewel fell off, and then his head fell off. That's one commentary. But he didn't want to kill him and then take the jewel because that you don't do that. The mighty Lord overtook Śaṅkhacūḍa from a great distance as if from nearby, and then with his fist, the Lord removed the wicked demon's head together with his precious jewel. Again, Jiva Goswami in his commentary. Though Krishna was far away, he caught up with the demon as if he were close. It was not proper to kill him from the back as he was quickly running away, but he could kill the thief while he was fleeing if he was not from the back. He killed him with his fist. So Krishna was faster than Śaṅkhacūḍa. And he didn't hit him with a sal tree, he hit him with his fist. One fist, not both fists. This means he did it without effort because he was the Lord. He took off his head and the jewel at once. Saha. Gopal Champu. Again, this Gopal Champu is our Jiva Goswami. Stopping the demon with his hand, he grabbed him. In order to take the jewel from his head, strong, effulgent Krishna with his lotus hand punched him on the head with a blow as hard as the bones of Dadichi, thinking that it would not be proper to later gather parts of his head dead body, Krishna made the jewel fall from his head. Krishna is very expert. He was chasing from behind, but he hit him from the front. No problem. The evil demon who deserved to die then gave up his life. After giving up the jewel, he maintained his life only because of wearing that gem. So this is this other idea. There's different ideas. And commentators allow that it can be different ideas. So one of them is, as long as he had the jewel in his head, he wouldn't die. So an arrangement was made, the jewel would come up first, and then he could die. Pretty clever. Back to the Bhagavatam. Having thus killed the demon Śaṅkhacūḍa and taken away his shining jewel, Lord Krishna gave it to his elder brother with great satisfaction as the gopis watched. Now, a little context. The gopis were thinking, maybe I'll get the jewel. Then this one thinking, maybe I'll get the jewel. Because there's only one jewel, there's many gopis. Competition. We didn't want competition. Various gopis perhaps thought that Govinda would give one of them the valuable jewel to prevent rivalry amongst them. Sri Krishna happily gave the jewel to his elder brother. But there's a plan. But, initially gave it to Balaram. Balaram gave it to Madhamangal. Madhamangal gave it to Radharani. And there's more to the story. This is Prabhupada's mentioning this in his Bhaktivedanta purport. He killed him completely. This means that Krishna destroyed his subtle body as well as his gross body. All the gopis looked with disinterest, since they all thought that they would be fortunate one to get the jewel, but he gave it to Balaram. So the gopis would not become envious of each other if one of them had it, and out of respect for Balaram, because he had protected the gopis. And most of all, he gave it to him, Balaram, to please Balaram. He gave it with pleasure, since he was pleased that Balaram had protected the gopis. Ultimately, this means that he did it because of the gopis. You protected our valuable persons. So you're to be honored because you're protecting the gopis. So the gopis are being honored. And this is from this very same book, Mathura Mangala Parikrama, that portion of Bhakti Ratnakar that's dealing with the places of Vrindavan or Mathura district. In great pleasure, Baladev gave the jewel to Radharani, the most favored object of Krishna's affection through Madhamangal. Now it doesn't say, hey, Madhamangal, little secret, Krishna wants Radharani to have it. So you take the jewel and give it to Radharani, okay? Doesn't say, what was conveyed by Balaram. Krishna gave it to Balaram. Madharam gave it to Madhamangal. Madhamangal gave it to Radharani. And it's a very important part. This pact plays a very important part in the Lita Madhava. Are you in suspense? You want to hear what that connection is? Rupa Goswami, senior most of the commentators of anything and everything, has this nice description in Lita Madhava. In the Lita Madhava, the description goes like this. The sun god, Surya, Vivaswan, sun god, said to his daughter, Yamuna was his daughter, "Oh, daughter, because she can no longer see Lord Krishna, your friend Radha has given up her body at sunset. Bring her to me at once." So there's Yamuna Devi, offering her obeisances to her father, Surya, the sun god, obeying her father's orders, Yamuna brought the grieving Radha to the sun planet. Now this is Lalita Madhava. And so Radharani has gone to the sun planet. When Radha entered the sun planet, she gave the jewel. Because how did she get the jewel? Madhamangal gave it to her. So she gave the jewel to Suryadev as if it were a handful of flowers. I mean, it's respectful, but it's not this effulgent jewel, this special coveted jewel. So now the jewel's in the hand of the sun god, correct? You read the Lita Madhava, the sun god has the jewel. And then what else happened? Childless Satrajit, praying for undying wealth, and the best child, worships Suryadev with all his heart. The sun god gave two gifts, the jewel of the invincible Śaṅkhacūḍa demon and the young girl. He gave the young girl. The young girl became known as Satyabhama. Satyabhama, the daughter of the sun god, or from the sun god to Satrajit. So now he's got two things. He's got a jewel and he's got Satyabhama. So you know the rest. Many of you at least know the rest of how Satrajit had a little bit of a problem because he had this jewel and he got a little proud, and there was another story in the Bhagavatam. Radharani's Shamataka jewel is known as Śaṅkhacūḍa Shiromani, or the crest jewel of Śaṅkhacūḍa. And this is Rupa Goswami describing the ornaments of Radha. So another time, because that's where we're now, Krishna is no longer in Vrindavan, he's in Dwarka, but something happened in Dwarka and he ended up having the jewel, but he gave the jewel back. And then Satrajit had a problem because he had the jewel, but he accepted the daughter, who was Radha, but known as Satyabhama. Nice. Who's Śaṅkhacūḍa? Well, we heard he's one of the Guyakas. We also heard that he's a servant of Kuvera. And the Guyakas, they're likened to the Yakshas. Yakshas and Guyakas are both servants of Kuvera. We know about the Yakshas because they had a little run-in with Dhruva Maharaj. Yes? I don't see anybody nodding. Yes. Okay. Some of you know. Some of you don't know. Dhruva achieved spiritual perfection, but somehow or other, he became overwhelmed with anger. Now, somebody that's achieved perfection doesn't become overwhelmed by anger. But his brother, his step-brother, was killed by some yakshas. So Dhruva went on a rampage with his entire army and was killing all the yakshas left and right and sideways, taking revenge against one of them, or some of them killed his stepbrother. So he had to put a cold towel on his forehead and ask him to desist, and immediately he stopped. So yakshas are warrior-like, and they're mystical. They have mystic powers. They did things, and Dhruva wasn't disturbed by those mystic things, because Dhruva was Dhruva. So mystical, and warriors, both Guyakas and Yakshas. And we hear that Śaṅkhacūḍa was in the Yaksha category. The Guyaka category. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, way back at the beginning of this chapter, he goes so far as to say that he was the son of Kuvera. The demon had a huge jewel on his head. So this shows it was on his turban. It was on his head, shaped like a conch. Thus he was famous by that name, Śaṅkhacūḍa. The jewel, which had a natural brilliance, was given to Śaṅkhacūḍa by Kuvera because of his service. And some others say he stole it from Kuvera's treasury. So whether he got it as a gift or he got it by theft, he's got this jewel. And there's some description of who Śaṅkhacūḍa was in his previous life. There's two sources. There's some places in Brahma Vaivarta Purana that have this narration. Very identical narration is there in Garga Samhita. It's very unusual. In the uppercut realm in Gokula, Vrindavan, inspired by Krishna's Leela Shakti, we're going to hear some more about Leela Shakti as we go along. Sridham. Who's Sridham? Who's Sridham? Radharani's elder brother? Radharani has an elder brother, and his name was Sridham. So Sridham was cursed by Radha to become a demon on earth, and he took birth as Śaṅkhacūḍa. Whoa. Now this is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in two of his writings, he narrates the Leelas of Krishna in Vrindavan, and he then describes in each of the Leelas of Krishna in Vrindavan, when Krishna kills the demon, it symbolizes, or it has the power of removing an obstacle for a sadhaka on the path of Shuddha Bhakti. And so Śaṅkhacūḍa symbolizes desire for fame and desire for women. This is taken directly from Chaitanya Shikshamrita. And here's from Krishna Samhita, another book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur that speaks on the same topic. Śaṅkhacūḍa was the personification of fame because he considered fame as his life and soul. So if you don't want an ending like Śaṅkhacūḍa, then you can be free from pride and wanting fame. Desire for sensuous enjoyment under the plea of devotion. That Bhaktivinoda Thakur is teaching. Oh. Yeah. So here's some photographs of the place. Along the Govardhan Parikrama path, we're going to see a photograph of like an aerial view of where this place is, but this is the ground view. And many of you who have been to Vrindavan have been to this place. It's a very nice place. Ratna Kund is located, you see over here. Oh, let's see if I can get it to work. Yeah. Here is, you see the number 1? Yes? That's Kusum Sarovar. And over here is the buildings by Kusum Sarovar, the memorial tomb of a king for his queens, etc. Over here, this is number 3. This is Uddhava's temple. Down here, back on the main Parikrama path, number 4, this is Ban Bihari temple. It was previously a temple by a local Babaji, and he gifted it to an ISKCON devotee, so it's now a deity along the Parikrama path run by or serviced by ISKCON. And way over here, number 5, in the upper left, you can see. Doesn't show so well. does it? Anyway, number 5. That's Ratnakund. And that's the place where you saw all those photographs. Here's some more photographs. Ratna Singhasan. This is a photograph that's superimposed on the background, but there's the Babaji. And this is the place where Radha was seated when Śaṅkhacūḍa came. And this is the last slide. Let's say the verse together. This is the Abhideya Pranama, excuse me. Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Preshtalibhi Sevyamano Smarami. Translation. In the temple of jewels in Vrindavan, underneath a desire tree, Sri Radha Govinda, served by the most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. To them, I offer my humble obeisances. So there's a beginning, the other pastimes and other pastimes and other pastimes we'll be hearing as we're together. But Krishna's wonderful exercise of joy and reciprocating in a loving way with his devotees, and reciprocating in a loving way with demons, helping them relieve their pride and their head and their turbans and their jewels and, the things that they're proud of, and liberating them. Very a nice detail. He even his subtle body was taken away. Wow. Śaṅkhacūḍa lost his subtle body. And when you lose your subtle body, what's left? You can't become a ghost, because that's what a ghost is. It's a subtle body. It's just the soul left. He got liberation. No, I've not read anything what kind of liberation he got. But Krishna is very kind and performs wonderful pastime, charming pastime, enchanting pastime for the pleasure of his devotee. So let's see if there's some discussion. Nice. My compliments to all of you that came from. Many persons came from a faraway distance. I can see some persons I know came from really faraway distance, like the other side of the planet. And some persons drove from the Midwest, and some persons from here and from there. And so my gratitude unto you. Hopefully, the thoughts of Krishna and the kirtan and the activities here will be inspiring. Your Krishna Bhakti will be rekindled. Any discussion? Sri Radhika's got her hand up first. You got a good voice. Just go ahead.
Maharaj, of the many retreats you conduct in a year, I consider this your signature retreat. And of the many pastimes you could have chosen to demonstrate Krishna's love and how he reciprocates with the demons and the devotees, you chose this particular one to begin the retreat. And I'm wondering if there's a particular reason why this pastime was chosen to inaugurate the retreat?
Could you hear everything? Could you hear everything? Partially. I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to have to bring my hearing aid to class because the speaker and the microphone don't go well together. Because I got about 20%. You're going to come forward. Yeah, that's definitely better. Go ahead. Why did I select this one? It's there's three reasons. It's a good introduction to what Garuda Prabhu is going to be speaking about. Because it involves Krishna and Balaram with their dancing with the gopis, and then you're going to hear some more from Garuda Prabhu about Krishna's dancing with the gopis and the intimacy. Another reason is it's tied into what the final class, my final class is going to be, is the relationship between Leela Shakti and Yogamaya. It's not like super profound, but it's in this commentary, specifically our acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses the word Leela Shakti. And so it's, I didn't run it up a flagpole, but now I am. It's mentioned in the verse, or excuse me, in the commentary. It's Leela Shakti that's making all these arrangements of loving exchanges, even when it's interrupting a loving exchange. It's part of the loving exchange. And Balaram gets the credit of being the protector of the gopis, even when there's disturbance. And it's the third reason. It's part of a tapestry, meaning here's a thread, and here's a thread, and there's another thread, and when you're all done, you have a cloth. So really, it doesn't particularly matter if it's this thread first or that thread first, or this leaving out this story, because we're going to touch on some other stories, other pastimes of Krishna, but it's just part of a large tapestry, and the tapestry is very colorful and very attractive. It's just part of weaving a tapestry. That's a simple way of saying it doesn't so much matter if you look at this thread or that thread, because the sweetness of Krishna and his engaging with his devotees in loving ways is Krishna. So you want to know why select this among so many? Why not? It's one of the threads in the tapestry. Yes. It died. Just speak.
Guru Maharaj, I always like to take these principles that you show in these pastimes and how we apply it in our service. And the principle of protecting devotees and how Krishna is so pleased to show, the gratitude of protecting the devotees.
Yes.
What would you say the means or the application of protecting devotees in our society?
Well, it depends. There are multiple different circumstances, and it all depends on the circumstance. And it depends on the person who's seeking protection. But what it looks like depends. In our modern context. In general, the real protection is devotional service, and as long as one has access to facility for devotional service, that's the source and the root of protection. So that means the devotional service of those devotees should be nourished and encouraged and facilitated, and to within our capacity, and that's protection. Because ultimately, we can think of protection from bodily harm, or think of protection from mental harm, but in this world of duality, there's physical and there's mental turmoil, abundant. So real protection is relieving one of that to one's capacity. So what that's going to look like depends on different individuals. Just like this little segment that you're part of and some others are part of, and that's all protection. It's categories of protection, where devotional service is honored and administered and encouraged, in different persons having different capacities to do that. That's protection. I saw Krishna Priya's hand up, so she's not sitting next to a speaker. Put your hand up, Krishna Priya.
Hare Krishna.
Oh boy, that's good.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I was just wondering if there was any description about Śaṅkhacūḍa. Why was he after fame?
Why was he after fame?
Yes, and
Why does anybody go after fame?
that was my second question. Why, even knowing the harm of going behind fame, there's so much tendency to go after fame. What is the underlying anartha?
Well, you get in good with Kamsa and you're famous. You hang out with the number one guy and you're famous. That was his the indication from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That was his thing. I'll give a little example. You've heard me say this probably 50 times. When I was a young brahmachari, I saw there were persons who were wanting to carry the title of sannyasi, carry a danda, and become celebrities because they've got a danda, they've got a Maharaj at the end of their name. That was after fame. So I was repulsed by that. But there's a purpose for the activity of sannyas. Anyway, so when I was told, hey, guess what? You've been approved to take sannyas. There was no thank you. Well, wait a minute, no thank you. Because, you can increase your preaching. Look, I got more preaching than I can handle. I don't need more preaching, thank you. No thank you. But it was aversion to that. Now, there are examples of ideal sannyasis. There's examples of ideal brahmacharis that didn't need, anyway. It was an aversion. That was a defect in my Krishna consciousness. And I got over it. And they, said, okay, we'll take sannyas. But it was, there's so. You get near a big person. Here's another example. There are persons who served Prabhupada, and to this day, They're at his feet. And there's other persons that served Prabhupada and they fell down. Because they were close to a big person, they thought big about themselves. That's the manifestation. It's one of the ways that one can try to become, honored and giving it a prestigious position because you got a title or you're anything. So you got the idea. Aspiring for something material when in fact it's not spiritual. It's not material. Someone else? Okay. You use your discretion.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. We hear, just in the way you explained here, that Sridhama in Aprakata Leela was cursed by Radharani to take birth as Śaṅkhacūḍa. And when Śaṅkhacūḍa was slain, my brain is saying he should go back and be
Because
Sridhama.
You spoke real fast. I'm going to bless you.
When Śaṅkhacūḍa is slain, my brain is saying he should have gone back to become Sridhama, but the description is he got liberation. How to process that?
Oh, why not? I mean, we know the personality of Godhead is Krishna and his first expansion is Balaram. So why is it in reverse? That's your question, isn't it? That's not your question? Krishna was the agent and the one that dispatched the agent was Balaram.
No, I don't think that's my question.
And no, that's not your question.
No. So in Lalita Madhava, you described that what was Śaṅkhacūḍa, who was Śaṅkhacūḍa in his previous life? He was Sridhama in...
That's not in Lalita Madhava. No.
I might have got the source
No,
wrong.
yes, not Lalita Madhava. That's not Rupa Goswami. No, sorry. It was two sources, Brahma Vaivarta Purana
yes.
and Garga Samhita.
Nevertheless, my question is, if Sridhama was cursed to become Śaṅkhacūḍa, and when Śaṅkhacūḍa is slain, I am thinking he becomes Sridhama again, but the description is he got liberation.
Three things. These two references, Brahma Vaivarta Purana and particularly
Garga Samhita?
yeah, Garga Samhita, they're not highest authority, they're not super authoritative. So they may say something, and maybe I should just leave that kind of reference out, their previous, because they both say things about previous life, something. And so it doesn't match, which is what you're saying.
This is just one example, but we hear the same thing about Jai and Vijay being cursed and they
That's
come
different. That's different. Okay.
Hiranyakashipu and they get liberation, and then Ravana and Kumbhakarna, they get liberation.
Why? What's the problem? So let's just do those. Leave Śaṅkhacūḍa out.
Yeah.
No, they did not render service, but they became killed by the personality of Godhead. So I've raised the question. Would you like? I'll send you the document. You send me a text message, and I'll send you the document. Then you can circulate it to whoever you like. Where did they go? They were freed from reactions. One reference source, they attained some heavenly planet, and they stayed there for some time and then took birth again. The next one. But after they were killed by Krishna, they went back to their position in the spiritual world. Because Krishna alone delivers that. And the others don't deliver. They became freed from the sins, the reactions of those sins. But they didn't go back to Godhead. They didn't attain mukti. They attained a heavenly planet. Or another reference says place in between the material and spiritual world. That's river Viraja is in between here and there. But they didn't go to the spiritual world. They didn't get a spiritual attainment. That's a detail. It's a nice detail.
I do have a follow-up if you...
Go ahead. You
on
got the
the-
microphone.
On the topic of liberation,
On the which?
on the topic of liberation,
Liberation.
we hear there are 5 kinds of liberation.
There's 5.
So, one is to attain the opulences of the Lord, one is to attain the same form, one is to attain the same planet. If somebody attains the same form of the Lord, they are attaining the same planet too. What's the distinction? If somebody attains the planet of the Lord, do they not have the same? My mathematical brain is thinking like this.
What college did you go to? I've never been asked that question. Garuda, have you ever been asked that question? Or would you like to answer that question? I don't know a scriptural reference that says the answer to your question is this. But I'll tell you what I'll do. You're going to send me a text message and I'll tell you what our acharyas say is the destination of Ravana and Kumbhakarna and everybody. And then you send me another message, remind me, because this thing get busy. I'll see if somebody has a scriptural reference to your, so articulate your question. I'll see if somebody has a scriptural reference that answers. It's a good question, but it's, a technical question. Okay. Right behind you.
Hare Krishna, Gurudeva.
Ooh.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to you, Romapāda. The question is actually, I heard another version of the story on Śaṅkhacūḍa fighting with Shiva and Krishna helping him. Krishna helping Shiva actually, so that Śaṅkhacūḍa gets lost, and Śaṅkhacūḍa is the husband of Tulsi Maharani. And
Oh, I don't want to go there.
no,
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So, what offense might have done Sridhama might have done so that he got cursed by Srimati Radharani?
That's another question. There's no indication. No indication.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
And again, that dialed down the authoritativeness of Garga Samhita. My apologies for presenting it to begin with. There's somebody else over here. Look at that.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. This is related to Krishna Priya Mataji's question on the fame.
About fame.
I really like that image for the fame. It actually looks, make us look big, fame.
Yeah, the image, that little cartoon.
But if I'm thinking, it's actually such a burden I'm carrying, like, geez, I want to keep it away and be free. And you were mentioning in your response to that question, there were some devotees who served Srila Prabhupada who fell down, but there were another set of devotees who actually continued. So wondering if you would elaborate what made them, even though they may be...
What made them do which? Fall or stay?
Either. I think the answer probably would be same.
Well, found, foundational to a living entity is the being a servant of Krishna. That's our foundational identity. And some persons wanted to be in the service of a great person because of the wrong reasons. It wasn't to be in the service of the great person. They had something else. And therefore, because there was something else, their appreciation was blocked. What they saw was not what was going on. What they saw was the block, even in the presence of the great person. And then those that continue to this very day, it's the door of love was open, and that's Garuda's topic. The door of love was open, and they still that love hasn't left them. Because these two individuals I was just with this past weekend, and I was speaking to them. We're having prasadam together at a little luncheon. It was a riot. Guru Das was saying Prabhupada, and Śaṅkhacūḍa said, "Do you remember when?" And it was like they were enjoying palpably. And Vaisheshika Prabhu was right in the middle, and he was like stereo. Their love is it's you can feel it, you can touch it, it's tangible, palpable to this day, because it doesn't fade. It's love that doesn't fade. It's transcendental love. They're with Prabhupada. You don't have to even hit their Prabhupada button. They just that's them, inside and outside. So, and that's the difference. When the purpose of service, and there's no end to their glorification. Those that had their association, no end to their glorification of the greatness of the person, because they got to see that person up close, and again and again and again and again and again and again. They're carrying it in their heart. Okay, we'll end. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Just your kind attention, please, just for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. First of all, thank you for being here. And then if you have already registered, you would have been added to a WhatsApp group for the retreat. If you have not been added, or if you don't have that information, please see Shamasaki at the Welcome Center. Welcome Center is the building where you see all the benches and tables. So once you are there, you will see a big board with Welcome Center. She will be there. And if you are not registered yet, please do so at your earliest convenience. It would help a lot, because you will also get added to the WhatsApp group, and all the messages during the course of the retreat will be made available in that WhatsApp group. Final announcement, there are some no parking signs that have been pasted. So please follow that and don't park there. And please park your vehicles in the designated spots. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.